Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is going to be another classic movie review for you guys, and this movie I'm going to be reviewing. I bought this movie months ago, like literally months ago. It has been sitting on my shelf for months now, and I've been telling myself, no, I gotta wait to watch this for classic movies. It has been the one movie that I've wanted to watch for so long, and finally, finally I've seen it. And I even started it months ago. I've started, and I'm like, no, I'm waiting for classic movies. I'm not watching this when I'm not doing classic movies. I'm waiting till then. And that movie I'm going to be reviewing, I finally watched it, and that is the 1979 musical semi-autobiographical fantasy classic, All That Jazz. Now, All That Jazz. I remember when I first found out about this movie. It was in this documentary that I love called Hollywood Singing and Dancing, which is probably my favorite documentary of all time because it showcases everything I love about musical movies and things like that. And all I knew is that this movie was like a sort of like a character study. I didn't really know much about this movie. I just knew it was about it was like an autobiographical musical that was more like fantasy sequences and things like that, and that got me really intrigued. When I found that the Criterion was coming out, I'm like, okay, I gotta get it, because I've always wanted to see it. I blind bought it. I had no idea what it was going to be. And after watching it, holy shit, thank God I bought All That Jazz, because I knew I was going to love this movie. What I did not know is that I was going to say that All That Jazz is a fucking masterpiece, and that is one of my favorite movies of all time. Seriously, guys, this movie is amazing. Everything about All That Jazz is amazing. Everything about it is a masterpiece, and it is a movie that everyone at some point in their lives, if you are involved in theater at any point in your lives, you need to see this movie. Okay, I am sorry. Anything, any theater thing that you're involved with, you need to see this movie. You have to. It really is a must for anyone that's involved in theater. Now let's get to the plot of All That Jazz, which the plot is crazy for this movie, because we have this, director, Joe Gideon, who it's loosely based off of Bob Fosse, which I will get to that story, is very weird, actually. He is this theater director and choreographer, and he is a complete workaholic, and he is completely, obsessed with work. That's all he cares about. He doesn't really care about his family. He's kind of abandoned them. And constantly, he has this crazy, like, morning ritual. He chain smokes cigarettes, and basically he has this like crazy ritual and everything. He has all the sex with women and things like that. He's left his ex-wife. He's now with this girl Katie, and his daughter Michelle is trying to pull him back from the brink. And the question is, like, can he turn his life around? And constantly he keeps having these visions of like musical numbers, because everything to him is a musical performance. And eventually one day he ends up basically collapsing during he ends up having a heart attack, after he has chest pains during a table read. And basically the whole movie is, can he turn his life around? Can he finally fix who he is? Or is it just too late? And that's basically a plot of All That Jazz, and that is an amazing plot. But the movie is so much more than that. There's so much that I'm not going to tell you guys about this movie that I'm going to get to in spoilers, because if you spoil one thing about this movie, it ruins the whole movie. It really does. If you know spoilers, fine, but if you find out, like, in grave detail what happens in this movie, it's not gonna make sense, and you're not gonna want to watch it, because, like, I knew what happened at the end of this movie, but it's like, what's gonna happen at the end. But that's not what makes this movie so good. That the plot is not what makes it so good. Yes, the story is great. Yes, it's a great story, but the acting is what makes this movie so good. Let's get to the acting here. Roy Scheider. I have not seen Jaws. I know it's a crime against humanity. I've not seen Jaws. I'm going to watch Jaws for classic movies. Right now, out of what I've seen from Roy Scheider, this is Roy Schneider's best performance I have ever seen him give. He was spot on. He had Joe Gideon down to a T. Again, remember, Joe Gideon is supposed to be like Bob Fosse. He had his character down to a T. He was perfect in this movie. You don't like his character. He's not a likable character, like, at all. But the thing about his character is that he's just such an intriguing character. And you get into his head. The whole movie is in his head, because it's all fantasy sequences, and everything he sees everything like a musical number. Everything. Like, for example, when he's in the hospital getting, like, open heart surgery, he pictures this as a musical number. It is fucked up. It's very weird, but that's how he thinks. That's how obsessed he is with work, and I think he just handled all of that really, really well. And again, you don't like his character. but it's so well done the way he did it. It's very hard to describe how good his performance was. He probably gave, and he should have won that Oscar that year. I know that Jack Nicholson won, no, Dustin Hoffman won it for Kramer versus Kramer, and I'm sure it's a great movie, but Roy Schneider should have won that Oscar because he was amazing in this movie. He was nominated for an Oscar, and he should have gotten it because he was absolutely fantastic. I was so into his character, and I didn't even like his character, but he was a fantastic character and portrayed it perfectly. Jessica Lange plays Angelique, the Angel of Death, who basically he fantasized about, and the Angel of Death is kind of like what he doesn't want to happen. You know that he's going to die throughout the movie because of this Angel of Death. You know that eventually we're going to get to that death, and that's the thing I love about this movie, that you know that's coming. You just don't want to see it come, and I think it's really well done the way Jessica Lange did it. Very haunting, and she's not in the movie as much as you think, but she definitely did a great job in the movie. Leland Palmer plays Joe's ex-wife Audrey. She's in the movie as well. I really want to talk about Anne Reiking though, as Katie, because Katie and Michelle, also Elizabeth Foldy, who plays Michelle, his daughter, they have the only, like, fun scene in the movie. There's one scene they have, it's a lot of fun, but Anne Reiking, I love her in this movie. I've seen her in one other movie, and that is the 1982 version of Annie. I'm not very fond of that film. She was so much better in this. I love her in this movie. I love that she tries to, get him to not be as stressed out, tries to get him to be on a good path of his life, and so does Michelle. In fact, there's a scene where Michelle talks about why doesn't he just marry Katie, and he's like, well, I don't really think about that, why do you care? Like, he keeps changing the subject, because he doesn't care about who he marries. All he cares about is his work. That's all that matters to him, is just working on the show, because not only is he working on a Broadway show in this movie, he's working on a movie as well, and what's very interesting is Bob Fosse's life, and I'm going to get to the directing in a second, but that's basically all the people we really need to talk about. Everyone was fantastic in this movie. Everyone gives an amazing performance, and everyone really shined perfectly. Everyone was great. The directing by Bob Fosse. Let's talk about this. Bob Fosse, everything that we see with Joe Gideon, Bob Fosse did. He harassed, he sexually, he had sex with tons of women. Yes, that one scene with, like, where the women, like, strip in that dance routine, he did that. He chain smoked all the time. And what's even weirder is, like, when Bob Fosse died, the way that, Joe dies in the movie, I'm not going to give away how he dies, but basically, when Joe does die, because it's coming, his death is coming, when Joe does die, I mean, that's how Bob Fosse died. It's so weird the way that's done, but he directed this perfectly, and it's really interesting because, like, he directs it as, like, you're not supposed to like his character, but I think what Bob Fosse was trying to show is that he didn't care. He enjoyed his life. He didn't care that he was this cold-hearted bastard. He knew he was a cold-hearted bastard. He didn't give a shit that he was a dick. He enjoyed his life. He, realized that there was people in his life, and he basically accepted the fact that he was gonna, what was gonna happen to him, and I thought that he did a great job directing this movie, and one of the things I love is just, like, the psychological elements of this movie. That's very different than anything else you've ever seen before, and I love the way the movie handled that. The fact that we just got into his head, it's a very interesting directing, and I love that. The writing here is so good. I love the writing. It is such a well-done, thing that they do. The thing I love about the writing is, like, there are a lot of scenes of dialogue, but there's not many scenes of dialogue, actually, in this movie. Most of it is, a lot of it are musical performances, and the musical performances, they compare to things that are going on in his life, and it's so well done the way they did it. I thought the writing was spot on here. Bob Fosse also wrote it. He did a great job with that, and I thought that was fantastic. Cinematography. This movie was made in 1979, when the cinematography was not as good back then. Oh my god, this is some of the best cinematography I have probably ever seen in a musical. The cinematography here is so good and so vibrant and so dreamlike, and they got it down perfectly. And just, that was the idea, was to get it to be, like, basically like a dream, and it's perfect. They did all that perfectly, and I thought it was just the perfect way to do the cinematography, definitely. The editing here, I have to talk about the editing to this movie, because the editing is something that is what makes this movie so good. The editing style is so different to this movie. I'm going to tell you guys this right now. If you don't want to focus on this movie, don't watch this movie. This is a movie you have to focus on, because it goes from present to a dream world to the past. Like, it's all over the place. But the thing is, he's thinking about it. That's why it's so all over the place, because he is thinking about it and what's going on in his life and everything. It shows you things that you don't want. It shows you what you want to see, not what you don't want to see. You know what's going on. That's one of the things I love about the movie, is there's, like, a musical number going on, but you know what's going on at the time, like, in real life. You know what he's picturing in his head, and and they're playing it off as this musical number, but that's just because that's how he sees the world. He sees the world as this one big stage show, and I love that he stayed dedicated to his work, and I think the editing was perfect that way. Very weird style of editing, especially the final scene in the movie, which I will definitely talk about, and I love that as well. So now I'm going to get to spoilers for all that jazz. If you guys want to see all that jazz, do not watch the rest of this review. I'm going to talk major spoilers here, because these are things that I don't want you guys to know about all that jazz. I want you to go into this knowing that it's about a man who makes some very bad choice in his life, and he knows, and he's going to die. You know he's going to die. He has a heart attack, but I don't want you guys to know anything else about the movie. I don't want you guys to know anything else because it ruins the movie. It ruins the experience. I didn't know anything. I went to this movie kind of pretty much blind, and that's what made the movie so good for me, is that half the stuff I didn't even know was going to happen in this movie. So, let's talk spoilers. Okay. This movie might have one of the greatest endings I've ever seen in my life. I'm being completely honest with you guys, and the reason is because the way the movie ends. I love the way the movie ended, because you think for a second, maybe he'll be okay. He even thinks that he'll be okay. Even the people that are in the show think he'll be okay. That's the other thing I would say about this movie, is that I like the way they showed the people in the broader production. You know, they don't know how to handle the show without him, if he's still going to be there, how that's going to work overall. I thought that was really interesting as well. But they think he's going to be better. But then you realize that there's no way he's going to change. And then there's, the 7 stages of, the 5 stages of grief, anger, denial, bargaining, oppression, and acceptance. And I love the scene where he pictures himself leaving the hospital and then getting dragged back in, but then he pictures himself in that, variety show where he basically gets to do what he wants to do. He gets to say goodbye to the people in his life. He makes amends with everyone. He says what he wanted to say to them, but the saddest part of it is that you know that he's not going to say these things to them. You know that he's not going to be able to because he's dying, and that's what's so sad about it. That's the other thing I would say about this movie, is that this is one of the most effective movies I think you could watch about death, because every single fantasy form, every scene in this movie is very depressing, and that's because you know that, the fantasy sequences, they're not really happening, and that's what's so sad about them, is that they're not actually happening, and that's why the movie is so well done. I think that's one of the things I really loved about the movie, definitely. But just him performing Bye Bye Life, I thought was the perfect way to end the movie, because that's how he would want to go out. That's how Joe Gideon would want to go out. He would want to go out with a big old musical number, and why not go out with a big old musical number? The way he ended it was perfect. When he hugged his daughter and told his, ex-wife, I guess we don't have to worry about me lying to you anymore. I was just like, this is the perfect way I was close to tears. I didn't cry, but I was very close to tears. And for a man that I did not respect, for a character that was so not was very cold-hearted, and you see that he did care about his family. In this moment, he's dying, he's realizing that I could have done more. That's what he's realizing. He's realizing, I could have said this to my family. I could have been better to them. He doesn't care now because he's accepting that he's gonna die, and he needs to get those final goodbyes to them, even if it is in his mind, even though they didn't happen in real life. He's getting those final goodbyes. He's getting to say them. He's getting that closure that he wants, and I love the way the movie ended. I thought that was the perfect way to end the movie. They ended it perfectly there, and just that was an amazing ending. I absolutely loved that ending. Just, oh my god, that was such an amazing ending. And then I guess the only other spoiler I really want to talk about is the whole thing with I guess the way the movie ends. I love that the movie, the song ends literally after he's put in that bag, because that's it, his life is over. And when we hear Bye Bye Life, of course, we hear the 3 beeps, and you know what's coming. You know he's going to die in that scene, but they portray it in such a good way. I love that they don't show what's going on in the hospital, because we know what's going on. We know that he is dying. We know that he's about to die. We know that they're about to pull the plug. We know what's going to happen to him. We know all this stuff that's going to happen, but they're not showing it because that's not how he's picturing it. He's not picturing it as just, I'm going to die. He's picturing it as, I need to go out with one big musical number and accept that I'm going to die, and he's happy about it. He's happy because in his mind, he lived a good life. He did what he wanted to do, and he didn't really care. And it's such a well-done final scene. And then when he looked at Angelique, the angel of death, he realizes that he's leaving, and then they put the body in the bag. That was the perfect way to end the movie. I clapped at that. I did. I clapped at the end. I was so happy with the way the movie ended. I thought it was the perfect way to end the movie, and I absolutely loved that they ended the movie that way. It was perfect, and it was all handled amazingly. I love that. But overall, guys, that is my review of All That Jazz. Please, please see this movie. I implore you to see this movie. If you have ever had a tough director, if you have ever had a director who you could not care about, if you've ever had a director that was tough on you, you need to see this movie, because Joe Gideon is about the most heartless director that there is, but yet he has so much potential in the world. He had so much potential to be better than he was, and that's really what the movie was trying to show, is that if he wasn't so heartless, he could have done more. He could have made a good movie. That movie that failed, it could have been a lot better than it was. You know, the movie that ended up failing, it could have been better than it was, and he knows that, and that's why he pictures himself reacting to it, because he knows he's not there to see it, but yet he's reacting to it, and it was amazing to see that, and I love the way they did that. Even, like, the people that the show goes on without him, they don't even know what to do about that. He knows that it's not going to do as well without him, and I love seeing that he knows what's going to happen. Even though he's happy with his life, he knows what's going to happen to him, and he knows that his death is imminent, and I love that they did that in the movie. But again, guys, I absolutely loved All That Jazz. It's an absolute masterpiece. It has become one of my favorite movies of all time, by far. The second I was done with this movie, I'm like, I want to watch this again. Like, it's that good of a movie. You watch it, you want to watch it again. It really is that good of a movie. It's a movie that I recommend all of you to see, and if you haven't seen it, watch it right now. If you're involved with musicals, I think people that don't even like musicals are going to like this, because it's not technically a musical, and I usually hate those kind of movies. I hate movies where it's just stage performances. This is not stage performances. This is what is happening in his head. This takes the idea of a stage performance and puts it to the next level and says, no, this is what he's thinking in his head. Everything in his head is a stage performance. And yeah, I know what you're going to say. That's what they do in Chicago. I don't care what they do in Chicago. Chicago is stupid. This is handled extremely well. This is how you handle that. Not how Chicago did it. This is how you handle it, okay? This is how you handle it. This is how that kind of movie should be portrayed. And I want to see more movies done this way. I really do. After this movie, I want to see more movies done this way. I know people said Birdman was done that way, but it was nothing compared to how this was made. If you watch this and then watch Birdman, it's like, no, this is how it should have been made. Definitely. I still love Birdman, but this is how that movie should have been made. And I love that movie. I love this movie. All That Jazz is an absolute masterpiece, and I loved every single minute of it. It is fantastic. And if you guys haven't seen it, check it out. But that's in my review of All That Jazz. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for another classic movie review. So I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.